Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another edition of CHP Talks. I'm here with one of our favorite regular contributors, Kris Sims from the from the Taxpayers Federation, Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Alberta Representative, Alberta Director. And thanks, Kris, again for joining us. And I know you've got some stuff to say to our people today. I'm just going to give you a little introduction again for those who this may be their first time listening to you. She is the Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. She's worked in and around government for more than 20 years. Kudos to you for standing up for that much time. And she and Franco Terrazzano and others from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation host their own podcast. You should listen to it. Top notch. And there's a wealth of information on their website at taxpayer.com. They do great work informing Canadians about how our taxes are being used and misused, and they are an advocacy group for more freedom through less government. So at taxpayer.com. Again, thanks for joining us, and we're going to talk today about welfare bums, and not the guys who are asking you for a quarter or want you to buy them a coffee, the guys that want you to buy them a Lear jet and build them a new factory in Canada somewhere. So, and of course, they don't go to the taxpayers individually, where they would probably get turned down. They go to this misguided government that thinks that they have a right to your pocketbook, and they ask them to take your money and give it to the corporation. So, where do we start with this topic of corporate welfare?
Well, first off, for folks who are wondering, oh, well, is it mean to use the word welfare? Aren't we picking on poor people? No. Number one, Rod would never do that. Number two, this term corporate welfare was started by Stephen Lewis, who is a very well-known lefty, to put it nicely, here in Canada. Avi Lewis's dad. It was the left that even coined this term, and it's something they were correct about. So corporate welfare goes something like this. It's exactly what Rod just said. It's basically a big corporation, almost always a big corporation, sometimes a different sort of a business, that for whatever reason, decides that they want money from the government. Now, of course, it isn't the government's money. This is the problem. It's taxpayers' money. And so they go to fill in the blank for a government, and they hit them up for however many, in some cases, tens of thousands, in some cases, hundreds of millions. And in some cases, it's added up. I think the last time Franco did the math, it was around $30 billion with a B in corporate welfare here in Canada. And to illustrate it, it can range from things like, money being given to a supposed cricket farm. I don't like using that term because it's weird, which was outside of London, Ontario, which was supposedly supposed to be making protein paste for, I think, people and pets to eat. Like, it's just gross. The problem there is that there was a liberal insider involved with it. Like, it all reeked to high heaven. So there's that, where that, organization and things like it are given money. And then there's the big ones, like Volkswagen and Stellantis, these huge international corporations that are like, yeah, sure, we'll create a battery plant, or we'll create, some electric vehicle manufacturing capacity, as long as you hand me millions and millions and millions of dollars. And this is where the Taxpayers Federation steps in and says, hold on, don't play investment banker with taxpayers' money. The government is terrible at pretty much everything. And them trying to play investment banker with taxpayers' money not only is unfair to the rest of the businesses, because it distorts the playing field, but it wastes taxpayers' money. We do it here provincially in Alberta, too. Pretty much every level of government does it, and they shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, some of those companies, the electric, the vehicle battery plants, for instance, are playing on the climate climate confusion. They're trying to sound like they're doing something for Canada, for Canadians, for the planet, and therefore we should be we should move by guilt and compassion to help them do this good work of creating these electric batteries. But where does that go? I mean, can you address some of it with particularly a battery plant? I don't think they're being eminently successful, in spite of all the government largesse.
This is what's so fascinating, Rod, is that it seemed like the moment that the so-called tax credits, so if you know, so there was a study done, and I think it was particular for Manitoba. My colleague Gage Halbrecht did it. He's the Prairie Director, and there was a study done in Manitoba where I think the typical like battery-powered vehicle purchaser made more than $110,000 as an individual, not even as a family. So it was the folks who had the, higher paid salaries who were typically going to be an EV buyer. And yet tax credits of $5,000 and I think it was up to $6,000 were going to these folks. On the other side of things, in the production side of things, yeah, they were handing out taxpayers' money to these corporations to supposedly build this stuff. But the moment that some of these so-called tax credits and incentives, as I loosely call them, dried up, the natural sales demand for EV cars dropped back down to about 8%.
Okay.
So it was being kept artificially afloat. I think it hit at its max. I think it hit 13, 14%. Now, the last 2 quarters, it's been 8% for sales. What was mind-boggling here, Rod, is that up until just the other day, the federal government was going full steam ahead, no pun intended, going to ban the sale of normal gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles. The restrictions were set to kick in about 3 months' time.
Yeah.
And they wanted 20% sales. So driving off the lot, 20% had to be battery powered, even though the natural demand is about 8%. This was going to be a disaster.
Yeah. And even some some of that natural demand might be people who, like you said already, have the money to be able to do it, but maybe are looking ahead and saying, well, these we're eventually going to have to buy an electric vehicle anyway, so we might as well do it now. And of course, some of that has dropped off partly through, disappointment in performance. You see these memes all the time of electric vehicle beside the road being charged up by a gas-powered or diesel-powered generator.
Yeah, I've
But
seen those.
I don't know how typical that is. They just had a electric bus that burnt in Quebec, and fortunately nobody was injured, but a bus burnt up due to
Yes.
problems with their electrical system, and yet this is somehow supposed to be good for the planet. Um,
I will
these,
point out gently also that there's a lot of rare earth minerals and other elements that go into making these things. I would describe myself as a small E environmentalist. Pretty much everything I wear, except for this shirt, which I got from our own team, pretty much everything I wear, I buy thrift. I'm very careful with things. I recycle. I hand sewed my baby's cloth diapers. I've literally hugged trees not too far from where you live there because I was on Vancouver Island. So, I get it. I believe that we should be stewards of the earth. But every now and then corporations catch wind of politics coming from government, and that sounds like a dinner bell to them.
yeah,
And they want to take advantage of it. And our silly, silly governments are all too willing to throw taxpayers' money after a really bad idea. And to your point exactly, everything that we do has an effect on our environment, no matter what. So even if it were a battery powered EV, it's still using elements from the earth. It is still incurring pollution. It's still being manufactured, and the batteries have to go somewhere. The way they're constructed have to come from rare earth. Like everything has a cost.
yeah.
And so I think it's really wise of people to really sit down hard and think about the cost of these things.
Yeah, because I haven't actually heard of any of them running on crickets or anything like that.
Don't give them ideas. I will, I think after what was done in the United States, I think a lot of people are, feeling sad and they're wondering about the future. And in an odd way, if I may, I like looking back at history in order to see forward a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to comfort some people, especially some young people who might be watching thinking, oh, our environment's being destroyed by cars. So by gasoline and diesel powered cars, particularly here in North America. Two things. One, I'm old enough to remember when I couldn't see Mount Baker when I was in the Fraser Valley of BC. Why? Because the particulates in the air were heavier then, and we had smog. You can see it clear as day now because our smog problem is largely gone. Same deal for Los Angeles. Look back at any of the old news footage from the 1970s, especially in Los Angeles. It looks like a greenish brownish smear.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the buildings. And so that's one. Two, if you want to go way back in history, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we also had a transportation and energy crisis, and that was because literally of horse manure. It was piling up everywhere in major urban centers like New York City and London, and it was so bad, folks, that they had world summits to talk about this. But the government didn't ban the horse and cart. Smart people invented a horseless carriage called a car, which is why it's called a car. It's short for carriage. So I just want to encourage people. There's often a way forward that doesn't involve government control and blowing your money.
So back to for a minute to yeah, no, and that's absolutely right. But for a minute, back to the corporate welfare aspect of it. These battery plants and whatever, I don't know the statistics if they have if they're going ahead, if they're backing off, now that they've got the government handout, are they progressing? Are they becoming dynamic institutions, or are they sputtering?
Everything is slowing down, to put it nicely. I've been reading some vehicle manufacturing journals and that. And for two reasons. One, because it sounds as if things might be slowing down with the so-called EV mandate here in Canada. And two, and this is the big reason why, other than the fact that natural demand is only at 8%, it's at an ebb, okay? Very low idle, to put it that way. The main reason, though, frankly, is the United States. The United States is enormous. Our auto industry is so intertwined with their auto manufacturing industry that it's basically the same industry. I was reading that one vehicle part can cross that Detroit-Windsor Bridge, I think 6 or 8 times individually before it's put into one vehicle.
Wow.
So, yes. So U.S. President Donald Trump, there's no way he's going to start dictating to people what kind of vehicle they should be allowed to drive. He's not a fan of doing a mandate like this, so they're not doing it. They are so influential and enormous a trading partner here that, a lot of things are kind of slowing down and icing over, no pun intended, here in Canada. So we'll have to wait and see, but it sounds as if things are slowing right down. What we want is we don't want this money to be spent in the first place.
No.
We want people like Premier Doug Ford and Prime Minister Mark Carney and Prime Minister Trudeau before him to think more clearly and not sign these deals ahead of time.
Well, if there's a business plan that's going to work, then you don't need taxpayer money to do it, right?
That's right. That's right.
If your battery plant is going to sell lots of batteries and help the planet, and everybody wants to jump on board, they're affordable, etc., it's gonna go without government subsidies. But it seems like once you get the subsidies involved, corporate welfare, there's something happens to the management of these outfits, and it becomes more important to keep that stream of revenue flowing than to make a good product at an affordable price.
This is why. So I'll give you an example. Look at mainstream media, right? Look at the CBC. The CBC is like a newsroom as if it were run by the government.
Right.
Because that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It's awful. It's awful. Its viewership is awful. It's at about 1.8%, meaning 98% of us watching TV are choosing to not watch the CBC.
Okay.
They won't even tell us how much they're spending in the aggregate on advertising, even though it's our money. The moment that government gets involved and starts artificially propping up an industry, it distorts that industry because it no longer needs to care about what its customers think of its product or what its viewers think of their newsrooms.
Exactly.
Because why? They're an arm of the state.
Yeah.
And so this is, again, another reason why we can't do this. And that's it. I would encourage any company to not go down the government route. We often hear too, I hear some energy companies, even some oil companies saying, oh, well, what about this and that? I'm like, no, man. Stay away from the government. Don't take taxpayers' money. Make it work on your own. You know, nobody was forcing people to buy the Model T or the Model A. Like, it just happened organically because it was cleaner, it was more efficient, it got people places faster and safer. People chose to purchase it. And that's what we need to allow to happen. Maybe someday people will prefer to have plug-in vehicles. That could be the case, but we can't force it artificially, and we don't have the money. Like, even if we imagined Carney wanted to tyrannically impose his will on everyone and force them to have a battery-powered car, we just don't have the electricity to make them go.
No, absolutely not.
And we don't have the money to build out the capacity. I wish we did. We don't.
Do you think that our Prime Minister, this is just getting your view of his personality, do you think he has the humility to accept the fact that what he's been pushing for years, even long before he was Prime Minister, he's been pushing the new Green Deal, the green energy, etc. Do you think, what does it take, I guess, to have him open his eyes to see reality that it's, what he's been pushing isn't going to work? Is he capable of that?
So you've asked a very thoughtful question. I've been, just as an analyst, I've been in the arena, like you said at the opening, for a long time. And I even had booked Carney back when he was a Bank of Canada head to speak on the CTV. So I've spoken with him in passing. He has a PhD in economics from Oxford. I mean, the gentleman is clearly no dum-dum. But to your point exactly, Rod, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Who is the real Mark Carney now that he is Prime Minister? Are we going to see someone who is mathematically and thus practically minded, as one would expect from an economics PhD and head of the former head of the Bank of England, former head of the Bank of Canada? I understand people in England weren't happy with his performance, depending on who you ask. All of that is understood. My point here is, will it be this person who wrote this book, Values, exactly to your point, which he wrote while he was the UN Special Envoy, literally on this topic, on stuff like, the Green Deal and all that. This book is full, folks. I recommend it to everybody to read because he's the Prime Minister now, and we need to know what he at least previously thought. It's full of why we need electric vehicles, why we need personal carbon emissions budgets, why he sees gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles and hot water tanks and power plants as stranded assets in the future, why 80% of oil and gas needs to remain in the ground. All of those are quotes from in this book.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to know if that is driving his thinking now, no pun intended, or if, to your question, deep down he is more practically minded. Because I will say, yes, we know he's working on an industrial carbon tax right now, but he did get rid of the consumer carbon tax. It is gone. It's not just reduced to zero. Some people have been correcting me, and they shouldn't. It is gone in the statute now. So that is why typically it's about 20 cents cheaper per liter, typically this summer, for gasoline. So that's gone. He's kicked the can on this EV mandate thing by a year. Trudeau wouldn't have.
No.
So I guess your short answer to your question is I don't know. The long answer is I really hope that the pragmatic person that I'm envisioning is real.
Well, time will tell on that, but we are glad about both those things, the removal of the personal carbon tax on fuel, and also on the postponement, at least, of the EV mandate. It was coming at us like a freight train, and we've got a year and they're taking a 60-day review of it. Hopefully, they'll get some voices during that review, not just listening to the same echo chamber, but hopefully they'll get some voices of reason. Speaking about the Prime Minister, one of the questions that came up recently is about his vocabulary. Now, he must have some kind of a vocabulary to be able to write a book and address crowds and so on. But he recently referred to the government's so-called gun buyback program as voluntary. Can you speak to that? Your boss Franco Terrazzano has done a great write-up on that, and there's a petition that you folks are circulating, which I've signed, calling on the Prime Minister to address this issue.
Thank you. So the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we are fighting the gun confiscation, often referred to as the gun buyback program. But I know firearms owners don't like that because I didn't buy my firearm from the government.
Yeah, right.
So I am a licensed legal gun owner myself. I was raised in rural Western Canada on hunted meat. I see it as a tool, the same as a pickup truck or a chainsaw. You got to be careful, and you can't be a crazy person with it, but you own firearms. It's just a way of life. All that understood. The Taxpayers Federation is fighting this because it's going to be a huge waste of money, an enormous boondoggle, the same way that the old long gun registry in the 90s was a disaster. They expected it to be $2 million. It wound up costing $2 billion at the B. And as police tell us over and over again, it's not making people any safer. Right. Because it's embarrassing to have to say this out loud. The criminal gangbangers who are using illegal handguns aren't the ones who are going to turn in their guns to the government when the government says that they should.
Right.
They typically don't follow the law, which is why they're criminals. So that's where we're at right now. The government had come out years ago and said, okay, the following list of these firearms are now illegal, but you folks hang on to them that already own them. Keep them in your gun safe. You're not allowed to take them to the range. You can't trade them and you can't sell them. Hang on to them for now while we get our act together. So years have now gone by and they're slowly kind of thinking of getting their act together administratively in Ottawa when it comes to this gun seizure. I will also point out this has ruined businesses. Okay. So if you are a hunting or outdoors store and you're legally allowed to sell firearms, in some cases they have had tens of thousands of dollars of stock of product sitting there frozen. They can't sell it, they can't move it, they can't trade it, they can't ship it to the States, nothing. They've had to hang on to it with no compensation. So fast forward, we've now had statements from people like Alberta Premier Daniel Smith, who has said something to the effect of, yeah, I'm not going to instruct police here in Alberta to be using their scarce resources and time going door to door to seize these guns. Like, we have better things to do. So good on her for that. So the CFO, Chief Firearms Officer, has backed her up on that too here in Alberta. So now we've got a new Prime Minister and a new Public Safety Minister. Number one, the Public Safety Minister seems to have no idea what this law is about. Andrew Lawton illustrated that perfectly before the summer recess. It shows that he doesn't understand what the firearm safety course is. He doesn't know what a PAL is, possession and acquisition license. He said this has nothing to do with law-abiding gun owners. This has everything and only to do with law-abiding gun owners. Yeah. But to your point, Rod, with the Prime Minister's vocabulary, this stunned the gun community last week. He went on a podcast in Edmonton and said that this was voluntary. So that's really disturbing because it could have meant two things. It could have meant, one, he's announcing a huge policy change on a podcast. Okay. That would be good if he changed the policy and did make it voluntary.
In other words, saying, yeah, we're not going to prosecute, right?
Yeah, or we're not going to force you to hand in your gun. You can choose to keep it and keep using it, but you just don't, you can't sell it or hand it down. So that term is called grandfathering. So that is something that some of the gun owners were looking for, of like, listen, can I keep using my own lawful firearm and I just won't sell it or hand it down. It'll stay with me, and then it'll get destroyed when I'm no longer here. So we thought maybe that's what he was talking about. The latest explanation I've heard, and this could change, the latest explanation I've heard is, oh, no, taking the money is voluntary. Apparently, I know, right?
Oh, man.
That's worse than I thought.
Yeah, wow.
So that's the latest scuttlebutt, is that, oh, no, getting compensated for it monetarily. That's the voluntary part of this. So we are constantly asking questions about this. I know the Conservatives are too in the House of Commons. Stay tuned. But this is a mess. And the very fact that A, the Prime Minister didn't seem to really know what the policy was about, and B, his own public safety minister clearly has no clue. Yeah. None. This is going to be a disaster.
Just for the record, those listening to this podcast, the Christian Heritage Party supports legal gun ownership. We do not support this so-called buyback program, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. But I had never actually thought of the use of the word voluntary to mean you don't have to accept the money. We're taking your gun regardless. But as far as we know, this so-called voluntary thing is that if you fail to turn in what has been up till now, your legally possessed firearm, you could get up to 5 years in jail.
Yes. So it's going to be against the criminal code law for you to continue.
Maybe he means you can volunteer to go to jail for 5 years, or you can volunteer to follow every jot and tittle of their new firearm regulations.
Oh, sure. Remember the COVID lockdowns? Those were totally voluntary too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, government. George Orwell must be rolling.
I remember there used to be a sign. This was, I think, before, I don't know if it was after 9/11, but it was way back in our airport. It said, if you choose not to, you can choose not to go through the security procedures, then you can choose not to board the plane, right? So, in other words,
correct. Then you can choose to just go home,
exactly.
Turn around.
So, Kris, you're amazing. You and your organization are just amazing. I learn something every time I listen to your podcast, and appreciate you so much coming on and sharing some of that wisdom with us today. And God bless you, and continue your good work, exposing the deeds of darkness with federal and provincial governments, and standing up for taxpayers. We also would like to see more freedom through less government, and of course, more affordable government. So thanks so much.
It was very nice hearing your voice this week, my friend. Thank you.
Okay. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.